Welcome back, everyone. It's Monday, August 28th. I'm recording this after the market close. Appreciate you all returning to the podcast. This is going to be a quick episode today. I'm not sure if you knew, but today was a bank holiday in the UK. So, my, short version of today's session was range bound. And it's like the Age of Ultron if you watch Avengers on Disney or in the movie theaters. I just feel like every day there's like news of AI and self-driving cars and people going to Mars or the space. It's just kind of nutty. But let's jump right into this. Today's breath did not tell all of the picture of the markets, but we had 114 new highs, 186 new lows, 69% of shares were advancing versus 25% declining. And we made some progress on the 50-day moving average, where now only 67% of all shares across NYSE, the NASDAQ, and Amex are under the 50-day moving average. On Friday, that session, we were like right at 71% below the 50-day moving average. So we made a little bit of an impact there. Everything was pretty much green. When I look at the sectors, every single sector was green today. But what concerns me is technology was not even top three sectors. So when you take a look at the top three performance sectors today, it was basic materials, communication services, real estate, and at number 4, consumer cyclical. So these usually are not high growth companies. So that's something to watch out for. Taking a look at kind of what was up and what was down, like I said, pretty much everything was green. But nothing popped like crazy. The Dow was definitely up a lot today, thanks to the Dow 30. Obviously, there are big 30 companies in there. We closed up 213 points on the Dow. The NASDAQ closed up 0.84, and the S&P closed up 0.63%. What I noticed was that what really stuck out was that we were bouncing around in a very defined range coming out of Jackson Hole on Friday. We tested to the upside, 4,444 multiple times, but in the morning we could not break it. And then we back tested to the bottom, 4425 multiple times. I'll share a screenshot of the entire intraday action on the ES on the show notes. But pre-market, we were in a very narrow range from like 44.12 to 44.25. And we finally broke out of that as the market opened. And then we just kind of created a W pattern up and down. And toward the end of the day, we were trying to close at the high, trying to pierce 4,444, but then got knocked down again. But still strong day. Everything was green. But it's one of those days where I say, when you take a look at breadth and when you take a look at the overall numbers, right? Like I think I said, breadth was new highs today was 414 and new lows was 186. So very equal. It wasn't like, 500 new highs and 12 new lows. So that, in addition to what actually led, which were consumer cyclicals and like energy and things like that, it was kind of like a nothing burger day. It was like the most muted 200 Dow points or most muted NASDAQ up 0.84% I've seen in a while. NVIDIA contributed to the NASDAQ finally to the upside. NVIDIA closed up 1.75%. I think that's like the first green close for NVIDIA in a while. And let's take a look at some of these Magnificent Seven and what shape they're in. So Apple is still well under the 50-day moving average here. It can try to test it. The 50-day moving average right now is at 186. We closed at 180, so 6 points away from the 50-day moving average. We can get there with a blink of an eye. Amazon is precariously testing multiple times its own 50-day moving average, but it's still above it. So let's see if prices can bounce and rally from the 50-day moving average for Amazon, or if more sellers come in, we'll break that 50-day. We haven't broke the 50-day in Amazon since March of this year. Google, above the 50-day. It's kind of carving out a little base or range value balance area here. Let's see which way this goes as well, right? It can backtest the 50-day moving average, or we can go higher from here. Meta, very similar picture to Apple. It's under the 50-day. It's tested it once but failed. We're just kind of hanging out here for that next move. And then Microsoft, that is also under the 50-day. It tested once but failed. NVIDIA, as I mentioned, it actually contributed today. It is above the 50-day, but it's still below the earnings pop. And then Tesla, which I'll talking about Age of Ultron, they closed up pretty much even. They closed up 17 cents, and it's still under the falling 50-day moving average here. But they had released yesterday, I believe, Elon Musk did some type of test drive with the newly updated full self-driving software, and the hoopla or the big news was that rather than the old system, which was using radar, lidar, etc., and all the data to crunch how to drive, it's using more of AI and all of the data from all of the Teslas that have ever been on the road, and it obviously films all of this footage. So they're using images and video to mimic real drivers. What that means is, like, let's say you and I come to a stop sign. Majority of us, if we're good drivers, will not make a full, complete stop, but we'll come to like a 90%, 95% stop, we'll kind of creep up a little, look both ways, and then if it's clear, go. So it's trying to mimic those type of actions. But I have my own personal opinions. I'm not going to go over them today, but that was newsworthy for NVIDIA, for Tesla. We'll see if that is accretive to their shares. That's what kind of really stuck out to me. I'll share the chart. It's pretty plain vanilla. Friday we had the Jackson Hole pop, but if I rewind to Thursday, we had the NVIDIA earnings pop that got sold off. Then Jackson Hole happened Friday, that popped, and then that got sold off. We tried to get back to the Jackson Hole peak, and here we are on Monday. We're still kissing that 4,444 line, and the reason why that number is so strong, as I mentioned, is that it is a high volume node. What that means is the majority of the trading of shares for the ES happened at that 4,444 area, and it's just like a magnet. So if we can surpass that line, that 4,444, we may have a chance here to go up to 4,500 on the ES. But if we can't break that magnetic field, then we can easily go back down to 43.68. So those are the levels to watch out for. I will share this chart in the show notes. Carvana up again today, 10%. Every sector was green, as I mentioned, and the basic materials led, which isn't that bullish. What to watch this week? Just keep a close eye on Apple, the Magnificent Seven. Apple's basically trapped between the 200-day below and above. You have the 50 and the 21-day moving averages. There's going to be a ton of economic data coming out from Tuesday through Friday. I'll post a link. I don't think I'm going to be able to snapshot it because it's so long. But most of this data is pretty much manipulated. Whatever the government agencies want to say, you can kind of change the formula to write your own narrative. But nonetheless, stock prices are going to react to these numbers, so you have to watch them That's it for today. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for subscribing on Substack and following as well. Have a great day. I'll see you on the next podcast.